Hello. Happy Tarot Tuesday! Fuck yeah. Welcome. I'm here for this. I am so happy to be here. I'm about 3 hours fashionably late for this because I was babysitting for like the first time in my whole life, and it was so much fun. So I'm gonna tune in here. Sorry for being late. I had no other choice. I was not home. Not that anybody gives a fuck, because nobody seems to care about tarot as much as I do at this moment. But that's okay. It's perfect, actually, because nobody was really waiting for me. So, let's begin, shall we? This week's tarot card, it's a little different, I think. Especially because of what we went through last week with the Five of Wands, I think reversed. A lot of conflict coming up to the surface, internal and external as well. The aftermath of that can kind of be a little bit of like an awkward transitional phase where you don't even really know how to feel because stuff isn't quite yet completely resolved, but it's not quite yet, destroying you either, So it's a very strange in-between. But this week's cards, I feel like, are the aftermath of that. It's like, okay, now that this has happened, you have to kind of cultivate an entirely new truth about yourself because you've just discovered that this one belief that you had about the world and other people and, competition and the way that you viewed the world was a very distorted way of thinking. So this week, it's kind of like the energy of, who am I without all of these shitty beliefs that I used to carry on my back all the time? Right? The rediscovery of yourself, right? Super exciting. So before we get into the tarot card, we're going to do the angel card. We've gotten this card before, actually, and I'm kind of beating myself up a little bit about not writing down the angel cards now because I wanted to go back and see what we were going through the week when we pulled this card the last time, but I have no recollection of when that was, unfortunately. But I just remembered because I drew this card. I know what it was. Okay. Seven of Michael. I'm so happy that I fucking remembered the other card because it's good. It makes so much sense. Of course, this is coming with our tarot card. Oh my gosh, it resonates so well. All right, it is the Seven of Michael. We've gotten this before. We see Michael himself, the angel. He is floating. He's got his beautiful blue wings on. And below him is a young traveler, a little man on a backpack. And he's at a crossroads. He's at a split. He can go this way or he can go this way. And it looks like he's already kind of chosen his path, if that makes sense, but he's stopped. He's stopped in his tracks. And it looks like he's almost actually about to take the darker path. The path that I don't really think is actually where he wants to go. It might have been where he thought he wanted to go because of his upbringing and what he was told he needed to do, but now he's completely stopped. And he might actually be considering taking the longer journey to go the exact opposite direction of where he was already moving towards. And Archangel Michael is right there in the middle. It's like a split, like almost in the woods. It looks like they're like on like a bike trail, almost. And obviously, one side is like super dark and there's like rain and spooky weather. And then on the other side, it literally is like a trail to the sun. It just leads to like clear skies and sunlight shining through the clouds and all of that. And it says, listen, there is a better way. We've gotten this card before a couple weeks ago, and it was with the card the Four of Swords, and I can't remember if it was reversed or upright, but I know that card was all about getting into meditation, forgetting about basically everything else, still being alert, but really, really, really just finding that time of solitude for yourself in order to get that rest that you need from whatever kind of crazy shit that you have gone through the week prior. So just keep in mind about that. But with that, it said, there is a better course of action available to you. Working alone may not be the best answer. Review all the details. Now, if you're like me and you hear that, you're like, ew. Because the idea of being able to do everything on your own, completely independent of other people, just sounds so like everything you want, right? No, it's not, actually. That's not what humans were made to do, unfortunately. And I know that I'm wired that way. It happens when you have trauma as a child and you don't feel like anybody is going to take your best interest in mind, so you feel like you have to do everything for yourself. You can't rely on other people. You have to be the person completely independent of other people, because others aren't dependable, right? Whew. So if this triggers you like it triggers me, know that you have work to do as far as being able to connect to other people and relate to them, whether that be in a relationship or in your work environment, or just in general, just being able to have a team, like be on a team and work with other people. I've never been able to know how to fucking do that myself. It's been a struggle. It's always been something that did not come easily to me, because I just want to lead and I want to be the one to make the decisions, kind of. And so it's hard to find cooperation between other people, which is why I've chosen this whole Twitch thing, because it's super easy, because it's all in my control. I do it on my own terms. I say what I want, and nobody else is putting their opinion in, which can be a horrible thing, because it means that there's certain things that I'm not seeing ever, because I don't have any kind of outer perspective from other people, which is so important when you have a team and you have other people who have different ideas and see things from different angles. So this week, it's bringing some light to that in us. And it says, there is a better course of action available to you. It's time to ask yourself, what am I really trying to accomplish? Think about whether working alone on this project is a good idea. Is your unique point of view providing creative solutions, or is it causing you to miss the important details? Go over the details once again. Your angels want you to be successful in this endeavor, and they're giving you a heads up with this card. There is probably more going on here than meets the eye. Someone might have ulterior motives. Additional meaning of this card is the need for caution, poor timing, and running away. Yikes, right? So keep that in mind, especially the part about running away, because it coincides a lot with this card. Are you ready? Are you ready for this week's tarot card? I hope you are, because it's coming whether or not you are. 8 of Cups. Take a gander. Look at it. What is the first thing you see? What is the first feeling that it brings to you? Take a nice little gander at it. I've never pulled this card before. Very excited to have pulled it. Hello, thank you for being here with me, guys. We're doing Tarot Tuesday, discussing the details of this beautiful week's tarot reading to help us better grow as people and figure out where our blind spots are. So, here we are, 8 of Cups. We see this guy. First impression when I pulled this card was probably, I was like, oof, this doesn't really look good. Like, it has somewhat of a somber somber vibe to it. Just the way that the guy's kind of like hunched over, you can tell he's probably not in the best of moods. And that's what I got from it, at least at first. It is a water sign card. It represents, the cups always represents our water, which is the way we express our emotions, how we reach emotional fulfillment, the way that we express ourselves emotionally to others, and just our whole relationship to our emotions. It is in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and they're kind of known to be kind of the moodier zodiac signs sometimes. They're very, very emotional, and so when something, it could be the smallest of things sometimes, and it just disrupts them, and they just need to they're hurt sometimes. And I feel like this is kind of the feeling of that, like a Pisces who invested in something and they ended up getting really disappointed, and they're just like, wow, I gave this all of my love and it led me nowhere. Pisces. It is the number 8. 8 is a very interesting number. It when it's put to the side, it's actually the infinity sign, which is all about, the continuation of energy and everything flowing constantly forever. Everything, is constantly changing and transforming, but there still is that flow of energy through each transformation. In a yes or no reading, this card is a no. And the planet that it rules is Neptune, which is also in Pisces. And Neptune is, the sea world, the sea of course, our freaking emotional world, and the way we can channel that energy into something creative instead of, destructive. Whew. So, let's get into the illustration a little bit about that, because there's a whole lot of symbolism going on in all of these cards, always. So, the first thing you're going to see is the guy, probably. Hopefully. Jesus, if this would fucking focus. There we go. Okay, so we see this guy, and he's got a red cloak on. A super vibrant red cloak. And he's got red shoes on, and he's got this little hiking stick in his hand, his right hand, which is suggesting that, he's been on a journey for a while. He's been, trekking in the cold, in the dark, and he's looking for something. He's been searching for some kind of something to fill his cup, He's in search of wisdom and knowledge, something to obviously fill his emotional and mental cup. And he's walking away from these 8 cups that are presented like at the very, very front of the deck. There are 8 of them. They're arranged to look like one of the cups is actually missing. You can see there's a little tiny gap between these 2 cards and this one. It's a really awkward gap where you see the man's shoes. It's what the freaking heck? But that means that this person is actually lacking that emotional fulfillment, and that's what they're searching for, within these cups. And spiritual fulfillment as well. This man has arrived at these 8 cups. He's looked through every single one of them, and he's not happy. He is displeased. He is I came all this way for this. Are you kidding me? Bro? He's disappointed with what they have to offer him, and now he's just going walking away, and he's fuck this. Whatever. I guess I just gotta keep going. And he shuffles off into the darkness. The dark mountains. Scary, right? This time, though, because of how much he's been disappointed with his efforts, this time around, when he turns around, it seems as though he's actually searching for something different this time. Instead of looking for just to find something to, fill the void, he's actually turning around and becoming more introspective and thinking, you know what, I've been searching for this so long. What if I can't find it outside of myself? Huh. It's a very interesting card. Yikes. So he's going off, and around him you can see that his whole energy. He's realized that like all of his past pursuits, all the things he's invested his time into, might have been more coming from a place of just wanting to feed yourself egoically and fill your life full of short-term pleasures and, not really thinking about the big picture, just trying to find the next best thing that's going to make you feel good right away. The next pill, right? And then he turns around, he's found all the pills and they're not healing him, so now he's like, okay, he's turned around and he's like, okay, maybe there's an alternative that I haven't considered yet. Whew! He's following his inner guidance, basically. He's turned around and he's like, all right, what else? What else is there to really look for? So the black shadowy, you can see that he's like literally walking into like, it looks like a black cloud of dust, but they're actually mountains. And they're meant to look like super scary and dark because they symbol the stepping into the complete unknown. Taking that moment of just being like, okay, everything that I've been trying to do that I know how to do is not fucking working. So I have to turn around and do something that I've never wanted to do. It might be something that I didn't feel like I was ready to do or wanted to do, but it seems to be the only option is to just move forward and try something completely radically different to get a different outcome. Right? So, stepping into completely unknown territory, which is just scary, right? For anybody, there will be new obstacles, which is what the mountains represent. It's the having to climb up that mountain, a completely new challenge that is foreign to you. You have to become familiar with the struggle and have the motivation and the vision of where you want to be in order to overcome all of those obstacles that will be in the way of that vision. Which aren't even really obstacles, they're just things to help you grow and become the person you need to be in order to make that vision a reality. Ha 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 ha. So, new obstacles, which also means new adventures. New adventures. And the river around him, the river surrounding him, it's all around him. Obviously, water is all about our emotions as well, and it's completely around him. Like, there's only like a little tiny bit of land that he's able to really walk around, which I think symbolizes how he's kind of really in the midst of his emotions. Like, he might feel like he's completely, they're surrounding him. Like, all he can do, and he's completely alone, so he's just in the thick of that feeling of disappointment and just thinking like, what else is there? Hello, fly. What else is there? Right? It can be a very uncomfortable experience. It's all about his emotional journey and his fulfillment as well. The water is, we're 70% water. All of us, it affects everything. The way that water moves on us, and our thoughts and our behaviors and our actions are literally chemically changing our body all the time. So be mindful of that. I don't really know where that was going. But other than that, you can see that above him, there is the moon. And the sun, kind of. I feel like the moon is kind of eclipsing the sun, which I think kind of represents how, the sun represents your ego and your concept of yourself, who you think you are, all the things you think you know, all the things that you are conscious of. Whereas the moon represents your subconscious, all of the things that you might have suppressed because you thought it was a certain trait you shouldn't possess. all the things that you have denied and rejected within yourself that you just push down into the back, and you're just like, no, nobody needs to see my dirty laundry. The moon represents all of that, and the moon is literally like engulfing the sun. So I think that that represents all of your subconscious beliefs, and all the crap that's not serving you is bubbling up, completely covering up the sun. It's like this cannot be ignored anymore. All this stuff that you're not aware of has to come up, and it's going to challenge your self-concept, who you think you are. These are not going to align. This aspect of yourself that you've rejected is going to clash with this idea that you have about who you are, what your work is, who you are in a relationship. It's questioning your beliefs about yourself, which is super, super scary. And the first thing that your ego wants to do, obviously, is just fight back and be like, defend itself and be like, no, I am a good person, you know, I am perfect, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm going to blame other people for my misfortunes. And the moon kind of slaps us in the face and says, no, bitch, like, everything that's happening is you're doing. So, it's a loving slap in the face. This is the truth. And the truth is the truth, regardless of whether or not you are running away from it or not. The only thing that you can do is either choose to accept it and live a life in reality and be at peace with yourself, have peace of mind, or keep living in avoidance and live in the hell that is the consequence of that. Yay, right? Okay, so other than that, moon is the subconscious, bringing everything into light. Everything that he's been actively avoiding at this point in his life can no longer be ignored, because he's alone. He has nothing but himself and his thoughts and his beliefs to sit and just look at and be very introspective about that. The only thing else about this card that I read about that I found very interesting was that he was, obviously, as you can see, since the moon is out, he's leaving in like the dead of the night. Like, the only light that's actually emitting on him is from the moonlight. He's walking up these mountains in the dark, basically, in the middle of the night, but he's doing that intentionally because he actually is leaving because he doesn't want people to even know that he's left. Maybe he's just trying to, you know, go unnoticed, and he's just like, maybe nobody will even care that I have just completely gone away. Maybe you're avoiding something. Maybe he doesn't want to face the consequences of just completely leaving something behind. Not very responsible. So, other than that, that's pretty much everything about the illustration. Really, as far as the symbolism goes. Hello. So, the keywords, we have gotten this card upright. Thank goodness. And the keywords for this week are going to be abandonment, escapism, disappointment, letting go, searching for the truth, travel, loneliness, and leaving a very bad situation. So all of those keywords are just good to keep in mind for the whole week, just in case someone, yourself or someone else around you, seems to be going through these kinds of things, right? So in a general type reading, what this could mean for you this week or for others this week is that you find yourself walking away from a particular situation. Okay, this chapter has ended and I gotta walk away. Maybe you're walking away from a particular situation or a particular person, or maybe even like a plan that you had initially thought was going to be like, you know, your go-to, like this is the goal, and now you're just kind of like, actually I think I'm going to press the self-destruct button on this and start something completely new from scratch. Whew, right? So the general of that is just what you're doing right now doesn't feel like it's giving you the emotional fulfillment that you know you could be experiencing. You might be exhausted and weary from whatever you have been having to put up with, and you're at the last straw. You're just like, no, I can't do this anymore. It's not even an option for me anymore. This can also be about escapism. So if you see yourself, if you're uncomfortable from where you are, but you're not really doing anything to make any changes, you're just kind of like going, whoo, 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 and trying to just like avoid any kind of responsibility thrown at you, and you're just trying to dodge a bunch of shit. Like, talk about a horrible way to live, right? You're constantly on edge about somebody else confronting you about something because you know that you're not doing anything you're supposed to be. This fucking fly is driving me up a wall. Whew, so, I feel like that's the only really huge shadow aspect of this card is escapism, which we all know that's a Pisces' favorite hobby, is to just forget about reality and escape into some kind of dream world where, you know, everything can be what they want, the fantasy, but they don't even want to actually... They can live in that fantasy. They can make that fantasy a reality if they stopped dreaming all the time and sitting on their ass and actually got up, got their stick, and, you know, started walking up the mountain. So that's the one thing I think that we just need to be the most wary of this week, is to observe in any ways. Are you just trying to dodge responsibility or dodge taking initiative in your own life? If you're just finding the easy path of just like, no, I'm just going to sit here and be passive. No, you never get anything by passively waiting for it to just come to you without you becoming a vibrational match to what it is that you want. My dear Pisces. So, that's pretty much the only shadow, like huge shadow of this. Other than that, there might be some travel going on. You can see, obviously, this guy is going on a very long trek. So maybe you're just you're sick of this life that you're currently, you know, going for, and you're going to have step out of the box experience, and you're going to go somewhere you've never gone before where the environment is completely different. Therefore, it's hard to have the same kind of thoughts because everything around you is just so foreign and new and exciting and scary at the same time. So it just kind of forces you to become a different person in your environment. Perfect way to get out of your box. Another thing generally is experiencing loneliness and introspection, self-analysis, and finally seeking the truth, which is super, super exciting for me because the truth is where your peace of mind comes and where the joy of life begins when you start saying yes to the truth. So this could be a very fantastic week for people to finally, you know, come into their authentic self and truth. This is really the key description of this card, is discovering your authentic self. Turning away from all of the hoopla that has obviously not been actually feeding you, and being like, all right, I'm ready to actually start feeding myself. Whew. So it's fantastic. The truth. Feeding myself the truth. Sometimes it's hard to stomach at first, I know. So, in a more detailed description this week, if this happens to unfortunately manifest in your love life this week, that could not be the best omen, because obviously this card is all about, you know, leaving something behind, leaving something that's obviously not taking you where you want to go. So you gotta let it go, drop the baggage. There might be a potential feeling like you're being abandoned, maybe just emotionally in your relationship, or you're not getting what you need in that relationship, or maybe they have actually literally abandoned you. If that has happened, my heart goes out to you and I send you my love. But I think honestly, for the most part, it could be in your favor. Maybe you yourself are the one finally letting go and leaving something that was super, super toxic to you, and it has just left you with no sense of self. Like most people who get into relationships super, super young, and they never really get to figure out who they are because they've just had this person attached to them for so long, and they've had like their whole identity with this person, regardless of if they are really benefiting them. You know, they might have like trauma bonds and crap like that. And so maybe this week you're just like, I cannot take this anymore. I am exhausted. I have no more water in my cup left, and I have to leave you now. This is the time. Maybe for some people it is so, so, so hard. Like I think about like those relationships where people go, they get back together and they break up, get back together, break up, because they miss each other and they're lonely, and they think that having someone other than nobody is better. But it's not. And that's a very hard thing to choose. It's hard to choose to be alone, as opposed to just having someone there, even if their company isn't the best, you know? So choosing that, it takes so much bravery and so much personal strength, and that's a hard thing to find when you've been beaten down so hard in a not fulfilling relationship. You know, you don't have that inner strength in yourself. You don't have the confidence or the boundaries, because nobody has ever allowed you to have that. So it's so hard. I empathize with anybody in that situation, and it's super, super common. So this week might be the time, the day, the week where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is obviously not helping either of us. I want something more for myself. I'm finally discovering that, you know what, I do deserve better. And I don't really know what that is quite yet, because I still have to figure who I am and what it is that I really want, but I know that I'm fucking done with this. So good. It's a beautiful energy. It's a painful energy, but it's also such a... It's the breaking free of the chains. Like, the chains hurt, obviously, as you're fucking sawing them off and cutting your wrist circulation off, but once it's off, you're just like, I'm free. I'm free, right? So, in a sense, it can be really bad if, you know, you've been wanting to hang on to a dead relationship. It's time to let it go if it's not working. And if you have any abandonment issues and you're in a current relationship, then that means that you might be having a lot of abandonment stuff resurfacing. Maybe something in your current relationship has triggered you and reminded you of a trauma in the past. That's obviously going to create issues in the relationship if it's not addressed. If you do not find the root core belief behind your abandonment issues, they're going to be poison in your relationship. And there's nothing that your partner can really do about it to help you, because it's your work. Sucks, right? I know. But you can do it, and it's in your hands. And if you do it, you guys are going to have the most strongest, most intimate, and truly connected relationship with that person if you can step into it, you know? It's hard. I know. If you're single, though, like me, you might be lonely. Are you lonely? You don't have to be lonely at farmersonly.com. Maybe you should sign up for Farmers Only. No, do not do that. Actually, this is not what that card is suggesting that you do. This card this week is suggesting that you have a fear of having new connections with people, and being able to cultivate a new relationship with somebody romantically as well. You might be having, we all have had, there's relationship trauma from past relationships. Maybe your last one made you think, you know what? I think I could just be alone forever, which for me, honestly, I kind of went on that road myself. Personally, after the last one, I was like, I could be alone for the rest of my life after this. I think I've had my fair share of Jesus. So yeah, there's a lot of trauma going on in past relationships. Maybe not even, it could even be just from your parental, like the way that you grew up. And our first connection that we have with someone of the opposite sex is our connection to our parental figures. And what we will notice a lot as we grow up is our relationship with our parents is actually kind of mirrored through our relationship with our significant others, as far as how they show up and what they expect of us, what they want from us, and maybe vice versa as well. So once again, getting really introspective, you got to dig up any of those really traumatic memories and core beliefs that we have about what it means to have connections with other people. What does that mean? What about it scares you the most? And obviously, since abandonment is the core feeling of this card, that's probably what's going to come up the most, is these feelings of, I don't want somebody to just up and, leave me. So, it's a hard one. I know. Especially if you're single. Like, it's different for, I don't know if I should say that, honestly, but for most people, I feel like, do have that need where they just want to be with somebody. They just want to be with somebody. They do not like being single. I think there's something wrong about it, and like they're not complete unless they have that other person, And when they find that other person, they realize, or they should realize quite quickly, sometimes not, but all you guys are going to be doing is feeding each other's voids and not really fulfilling each other emotionally or spiritually at all, because you guys are really just trying to escape with each other. So if you're single, be glad that, honestly, in this moment, you are not in that chain with another person. It's so hard to get out of that once you're in it, which is why most people who are like me, and they're just like, I just don't ever want to be in it. I just don't want to, I don't want to have to do that to somebody again and break their heart and abandon them, right? So, single people, this is a time. Your heart, your current beliefs about connecting to people is very limited, and it is skewed, and it's preventing you from being able to trust and preventing any love of any kind to come into your life, because you're closed off and you don't believe that it is really possible to experience something different from what you've already endured. So you're just like, no, I'm good. I don't need any more. I don't even want to see if there's a beautiful rainbow on the side of this mountain, because I'd rather just not see it. So we got to get out of that very limited mindset, because it's not true, and it's not what's going to make you happy at the end of the day either. Loneliness is such a horrible, it's the epidemic of humanity, is the feeling of loneliness. Connection is the exact opposite to it, and that is what makes us feel the most alive, unfortunately. So I know it's super, super hard, guys. This is gonna be a crazy ass week for us, even if you're coupled and single, either way. So it's time to heal and open your heart to new love, right? So, other than that, this card, if it's affecting you in your career or financially this week, expect yourself to maybe quit or walk away from your shitty-ass job. Maybe you're like, okay, this is not fulfilling me. I know this is not my life's work. Maybe you've invested all of this time into this job working for somebody just because it gives you a weekly paycheck and you know that it's secure and it provides you the financial freedom to hang out with the boys on the weekends and shit. But God, what kind of life is that? Like, there's this quote by Jason Mraz that I love all the time, and I think about it all the time, that is, you don't need a vacation if there's nothing to escape from. You don't need a vacation when there's nothing to escape from. Sing it. So that is the... I love that quote so very much, because it makes the most sense. If you are living in your purpose and you wake up every day knowing that you're putting all your energy into something that's in alignment with your grand vision for the world, you don't work a fucking day in your life. You don't feel like it's work. It's just something that is naturally occurring in your body, because it's just like, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing in this moment. Waking moment is connecting to these people and bringing positive change to the world. Whereas if you work in a shitty ass job that you never actually even wanted in the first place, every single second of it is like a little bit of torture. You're forcing yourself. You're running up this hill and you're just like, God, I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait to finally stop doing this thing I hate doing all the time. This is not the time. Maybe this week you're finally like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I think I've had enough. If so, congratulations. If you're questioning your career path, which can be super scary, especially if you invested so much of your time into something. Like, some people spend 10 to 20 years doing the same thing forever. Like 7 days a week. And then one day they just wake up and they're like, nope, I'm throwing all of this away and I'm just gonna start a business or something like that. Anything. It can be anything. So it's just it's the same thing with this card. Is you are... something in your external environment might have made you become very distinctively aware of just how much you are not in alignment with what you know you really want to be doing. And the first realization of that is probably one of the most painful realizations ever. It's not a fun feeling, because it feels like you're like, well, what the fuck do I do? You feel like you're stuck a little bit. And you're like, okay, I know that what I'm doing is causing me to suffer, but how do I take those first steps into actually moving where I want to go? How do I quit doing something that I don't know how to do this so well, because I've been doing it for 10 to 20 years, right? This is all I know. This is who I am, right? It's a whole identity thing at a certain point. Once you've been doing it for so long, you just, when people ask you, what do you do? Who are you? What do you do for work, you know? And you're like, I'm a doctor. I'm a judge. You know, people have they love to just be like, I have a PhD and blah, 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 you know? Let me tell you about all my accomplishments. And it's like, sure, bro. It's funny to see you think who you think you are. So, with that, just know that you are not your career. You are so much more than that, regardless of what your profession is. You are a human being, and you have much more to do in this world than to just make money. So it's time to see things from a perspective of, how can I be of service, and what would be the most delicious way for me to provide this service for others? You'll always get the right answer with that question. Maybe you failed. Maybe you started a business and it failed. And this week you might be like, okay, I'm coming to terms with the reality that this did not go exactly how I wanted it to go. And maybe you don't know what to do at this point. Maybe you do, though. I feel like this card is kind of like the giant death of something. Like the fucking... something has just completely died, and you just gotta, like, accept that it is gone and dead. But I feel like on the other side, there's this feeling of just like, this isn't really what I wanted anyway. And I kind of knew that. I knew there was something much greater for me. But maybe you don't know what it is yet. And so that's really scary if you're just like, okay, my business has failed. And I have this cool woo-woo idea that maybe there's something better out there for me, but I don't know what the fuck that is. So it's not a realistic way of securing your future, right? So, rough, right? Just take everything one step at a time. You have to address how you feel about it first before you can do anything and actually move forward in any kind of way. Just become completely aware of what is happening right here and right now in the present moment. Don't beat yourself up, because everything happens for a reason, and it doesn't really define you in any way. None of your setbacks or quote-unquote failures define you. Haha. Maybe you are just traveling for work. Like, that is another thing this week. It might not even be something super crazy of like leaving everything behind. Maybe there's just a whole new work venture going on, and it's involving travel, and you've never traveled before, so it's new and exciting for you, and you're just like, ah, yeah. Maybe a little scared. And other than that, in terms of just your general finances, it's a good time to get really smart about that. Stop escaping and just thinking about, oh, my life is completely abundant. God will take care of everything. I don't have to look at my bank account. I don't have to fucking document how much money I'm spending every month. Like, these are really awesome and practical things to just be more aware. And it kind of got to remind us of like the escapism of the Pisces energy, which is just kind of, they'll say, oh, just let the universe take care of everything. I don't want to actually have to look at these things, because if I do, it might not make me feel good about myself or what I'm doing, or it might make me realize that if I continue this behavior, there might be some dire consequences. So instead of really noticing that, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And when the consequences find me, I'm just going to let that knock me on the ground. No. Don't be a Pisces. Don't be a Pisces. No. It's time to become aware. This awareness is the power. Ignorance is expensive pain. Thank you, Ralph Smart. And when you become aware of something, you are in control of it. You're not in control of it if you're just choosing to completely avoid the reality of it. No. You got to become very aware of how much you're spending, maybe how much you're making too, so that you can see it from a very realistic point of view, and then from that realization is where you can take a very logical step forward as, okay, what's the next best decision that I can make from this standpoint? Because if you do that, you're only going to go up, because you're consciously doing that. You're intentionally causing that to happen instead of just blindly going, like letting everything fall to the floor. Nah, bro. You want to be a billionaire. Remember? That's how you become a billionaire. So, become aware of your current relationship to money as well. Money is nothing but the exchange, the ebb and flow, the giving and receiving of energy, which we all know has everything to do with, the feelings of loneliness, the feelings of believing that you can never actually have a true connection and healthy relationship with another person. You guys can actually have this connection where you guys are both equally giving and receiving what each of you needs. When you don't believe that that's possible, how can you believe that you can have the same thing financially in your life? Have the perfect giving and receiving relationships of that between your transactions with other people, because it's all the same thing. They're all relationships. And if you don't look at that relationship from the realistic point of view of, this is how I currently feel about money, then how are you going to shift it and turn it into something more how you would like it to be, until you really know how you really feel about it? Awareness is everything. Awareness is power. So keep that in mind. This week you might experience some financial loss that makes it impossible for you to ignore that. If you've been avoiding it and escaping it for as long as you can, you might have something come up where that's not really an option for you anymore. So I suggest you do that before something like that happens. In a health reading, this week you might be dwelling on negativity. This week, with this card, think about this guy. Like, I can only imagine the kind of thoughts that this guy is having after he's just like walked away from these 8 cups, all 8 of them, and every single one of them, he just turns it up and he's like, ugh. Are you kidding me? Seriously? No. Where is it? Like, what? How much longer do I have to keep searching for this? And he just turns around and he's like, what the fuck? Like, dude, like, I can just see his face and he's just, like, mumbling to himself and he's just like, ugh. That's the energy of this card. He's like, what else? Like, where can I go now? What am I looking for? What is it? And he's having all of these thoughts where he's like, what is it even that I'm searching for anymore? And that's where he has that one thought where he's like, oh, maybe what I'm searching for isn't even something external to me. And that's when he starts taking that more introspective look into himself and he starts observing all of his negative thoughts that are creating his reality. And he's dwelling on negativity. And whenever we do that, there's a difference between being realistic and being just completely pessimistic. Seeing the reality of things and not forming a really heavy opinion about it. It's just like, this is the facts. This is the reality. Whereas pessimism and negativity is seeing the reality, not really seeing the reality, actually taking the reality and distorting it into this horrible dystopian reality that you think you're in the middle of, but it's just all of your perception, and it's actually causing you a lot of physical symptoms. Our thoughts create our bodies, honestly. When you think different thoughts and believe them at your core about yourself and about your physical body, it shifts the way that your body feels in itself and the way that it forms itself. So you may be experiencing a lot of really nasty symptoms, but the joy of it is to know that most of it is actually being caused by your mental torture, which can be shifted. Yay! Right? It's affecting you physically, so what you need to do is kind of what this guy is doing. Just walk away. Walk away from what is not serving you. Maybe taking a break. You need to step outside of the box that you've encased yourself in. Yeah. Which could just mean something of like going out of routine and taking a random walk somewhere that you've never gone before. It could mean something fucking crazy. Going on a plane and going to New York for a week or something. It could be from the smallest thing, even the smallest little change of just maybe taking an hour every single day to just not be on your phone and go out into nature, or just do something like really tap into your creative side and your inner child. I feel like during this, like, really, this person has forgotten who he really is, and the inner child within himself that knows that everything is possible and that life is an adventure. He has completely forgotten that. Because of what he's gone through, he sees life as this horrible trial where all of these things are just so hard to reach, and even when he does succeed and get something, it doesn't really feel completely right, and all the people around him don't really have his best interests, so it's this uncomfortable feeling of nothing feels right now. And I just have to keep walking away from it and hope that whatever I fucking stumble upon in the future is somewhat better, but I don't even know what it's gonna be. So how can I trust the unknown in the future when everything that I've ever experienced has barely left me any room to have trust for the unknown and what could potentially be coming next, you know? So this guy's going through it. Especially, I don't know. It's a whole lot. So if you're experiencing a lot of health issues, you really got to start examining the way that you're perceiving yourself and the world around you. Just become aware of it. You don't have to focus on changing it right now. Awareness is the first step. If you don't do that, then you're kind of just... You can't throw a bunch of positive affirmations at yourself when you have a core belief of negativity, you know? It's just gonna go like that. It's the sun and the moon butting heads. It's your identity, who you think you are, You know how you want other people to perceive you all the time as just this nice, cool, caring, awesome person, when deep down you have these subconscious beliefs of I'm unworthy and I'm not a good person and, I don't deserve a bunch of stuff. And when you just, all your affirmations on top of those subconscious beliefs are so detrimental and they don't get you anywhere. My queen, Teal Swan, has this analogy that is perfect for this, I feel like. If you imagine a boat, and on one side there are two guys swimming in this direction, but then on the other side there are two guys swimming in the exact opposite direction. So these two people are literally at a standstill because neither of them are on the same page. So imagine that being like your inner being who knows all of your worth, who knows how worthy you are of all this love and abundance, is swimming this way, but your subconscious, who all of your trauma and all of that, your limiting beliefs underneath what you're conscious of, is actually swimming in the opposite direction, and you may not even know that. That's what makes it subconscious, is that you're unaware of this aspect of yourself that actually is not wanting what you think you want. And if that is the case, and if that's happening, you're not going to get what you want. Ever. Because you need all the aspects of you to be moving in one direction towards that common goal. They all have to be on the same boat. Right? So, definitely examine that in yourself. It can be hard, it can be uncomfy, but that's what we're here to do. Spiritually, this is a wonderful week for you. You might be voyaging into self-discovery. When you let go of all the garbage, when you take out the garbage, all that's left is whatever is actually, pure and what's actually real. And so it's a whole new journey of, okay, now that all of this crap is out of the way, what's left? It can be a beautiful experience. It can be a very, it can go either way. Soul searching, a lot of introspection, just really getting to know the self. Shedding the limiting beliefs, which is the best part. Becoming aware of them isn't necessarily very bougie, but once you do, there's that moment, now that I have this in my hands, I can actually do something with it and throw it away. Whereas when it was just like sitting and rotting in my back pocket because I didn't know it was there, it wasn't really the case. So other than that, maybe this week, this is really, really exciting actually for my point of view. Maybe this week you might start questioning your religious beliefs or abandoning any religious views to form your own spiritual beliefs, your own spiritual path, which is really what we are all here to do. We're not here to just adopt a bunch of belief systems that already exist. We are here to form our own truth. See everyone's point of view, take it all in. You don't have to reject all of it and be like, no, no, no. Take it all in. Eat it all up. And shit out any of the parts you don't want. And keep the parts that you do. It's a fun, choose your own adventure. It really is. Adopt the parts of religious beliefs that do resonate with you. Everybody does it. It's fucking cherry picking. Honestly, at the core of it, when people say, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Mormon, but I guess I eat pig, but I don't fucking know. I don't know what kind of crazy beliefs you guys, religious people, have. That's their business. But yeah, it's forming your own, it's like a Build-A-Bear. It's like build a spiritual workshop. It's so fun when you can look at it from just a space of curiosity instead of, this horrible thing where there's laws and I have to obey them or I'm a sinner and blah, blah, blah. Releasing yourself from the guilt of that and the scary belief that there's some crazy guy in the sky who's gonna torture you if you don't do what he says. I don't know. I've never lived by that crazy. It's not that crazy. It is crazy. It's crazy. I'm sorry. But if you've been told that all of your life growing up as a child, obviously it's what's going to make the most sense to you because it's what you've been told the most. So there's nothing wrong with believing that. There's something wrong with letting other people decide for you what your truth is. Yeah. So this week could be a fantastic moment, or maybe a horrible moment, where you realize, oh my God, what have I been doing? Like, why am I doing this? And you're just like, okay, coming into your truth. You're coming into your truth. Realizing that maybe you've grown up in an environment that wasn't very truthful. Which is never an easy thing to do. But underneath all of that and the aftermath of that is a very, very beautiful thing, because it is the awakening of who you really are. And that person's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So that's pretty much all for this week. This week's cards. Finding your own spiritual truth. Ha ha ha. So a little tiny recap with these. We have the Seven of Michael. Michael is the archangel of protection. He is there to provide you the invisible shield that you need in order to move forward when you feel like you're completely vulnerable and you don't know anything and you feel completely exposed. You don't feel like you're safe. Archangel Michael gives us that protection that we need in order to step into the unknown with a sense of, I can do this because I am protected, right? So if you're feeling any kind of feelings of unsafety and uncertainty and fear of the unknown in the future, you need to do a meditation with Archangel Michael, because he comes in and he just gives you the reassurance that the universe is on your side always, but you have to be the one. You have to be the one to change yourself. You have to change your personality in order to change your personal reality. Yeah, that's the only way it happens. Everything will always be the same if you are always reacting to it the same way. So this week, it's time to, instead of constantly looking at these cups from the perspective of, oh my God, this thing externally to me is not giving me what I want, it's time to look in and be like, how can I create what I want? Whew! I went off on that with that, but with Archangel Michael, obviously this week, we have one option. We have two options. To go in alignment with what we know is best for us, which could mean that we have to let go of stuff that we're not doing that's actually serving us. Or we can go in the direction of sickness and death and disease and suffering. It's your choice, really. Other than that, working alone, that's the big thing about this too. I feel like, with these two cards together, it's calling me out on my bullshit, because it's like, okay, you're walking away from something that you don't want to be doing anymore, which is totally resonant with me. Like, I just was liberated from my recent job that I had for 1 to 2 years of being a respite provider, but it was not emotionally fulfilling in any way, shape, or form. It was detrimental to my well-being as well as his, I'm sure, because none of us were really working on improving ourselves or growing or, actually creating positive change in his life. So it was horrible, honestly. The longer it went, it was more like, what am I doing? This is really what I'm dedicating my time to? And that was the total vibe of this guy. It's like, what the fuck? How is this what I'm doing? Right? So, it's heavy. It's heavy, but it's also, when you fall to the floor and you just let yourself have that come apart of like, oh my goodness, then all that's left is just get back up and keep treading up the hill, up the mountain, you know? There will be obstacles, and they'll be new, and they'll be completely different from what we've been familiarized with, because we're not fucking repeating the same patterns. We're creating new ones. Ones that will actually eventually start producing beautiful fruit in our life that we can eat and savor and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's happening so naturally now because it's coming from an authentic space. Delicious. There's nothing better. And all you gotta do is just be courageous enough to see what's really in front of you. Because once you do that, you can fucking turn it into whatever you want. Amazing. Right? So everything with this card, biggest thing is to just recognize where you're trying to escape. What are the things that you're just trying to avoid because it's uncomfortable, because you know there might be consequences, there might be, you know, some things that you think would just be better to just not deal with, right? I'm just going to pretend that this does not exist. This is not the time to do that. It's the time to become very, very, very aware and to want nothing but the truth and only the truth, which can be hard to swallow, I know. But once it's swallowed, it just changes your whole life. So, with that, I say so much. It's a good time. It's a crazy time, but it's a good time. And there's some crazy shit ahead. But it's all gonna be good, and it's all gonna be what we need. That's the joy of this life. It's nice to know that everything that's happening to us is just, they're just slapping us with stuff that we need. In the worst way sometimes, but yeah. Let me know what you thought about this, especially on the YouTube comments. I'm so excited to finally maybe have, it'd be so nice to just have a wonderful, crazy community of people on YouTube who are just like, oh my God, this card, you know, sharing their funny stories about how this card resonates with them throughout this week. So fun. That's my grand vision. What's yours? Okay, I'm gonna leave y'all to it. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Let me know what you really did think about it. 8 of Cups, along with the 7 of Michael. It's time to walk away from the dead horse and step into the unknown. Maybe you need to watch Frozen 2. I literally cried watching Frozen 2 because it was literally about stepping into the unknown when you have no fucking clue what's on the other side. You have to. You gotta, that's where your power, you gotta come into your power. Power is responsibility, and that's why a lot of people try to avoid coming into their power, because they don't want the responsibility. But living a life full of avoidance and just trying to avoid responsibility your whole life, that is the literal definition of suffering. So just keep that in mind, and I hope you choose truth instead this week. Thank you. Love you. I hope you have a wonderful week regardless of what happens. And I hope to see you next week for Tarot Tuesday again. Bye.